What's up, YouTube? Today we're gonna be watching Everyone Hates Gen Z in the Workplace and They Need to Get Over It. Let's get straight into it.
You all seem super qualified for this position. For this last round, I'd like to ask all of you, what is your superpower for this role? What I do? Splendid. Very well said. Next. I literally don't want to be here. Exactly. Ugh, I wish I could hire you right now. Well, for me, as someone who's Gen Z, I denied. Huh? Denied. I didn't even get to finish. We do not hire Gen Z. You all
That's
are
where
lazy.
You fucked up, bro. You started with, as somebody a part of Gen Z, bro, you just start cooking, bro. Every interview, you never start with, well, I'm 20 years old. Nah. You start with your credentials. You start with why you should have that shit. And if you're going to add it at the end, bro. After they're already sold on you. You start off with, I'm this years old. They not going to fuck with you, bro. I've been there.
Unqualified for the job and just complain entirely too much. Candidate 2, welcome to the emergency room, LLC. But in the sense that, wait, please. I just graduated. No, I need a job, please. Hey guys, what's up, Emergency, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we are back, and as you could probably tell from that skit, we are talking about Gen Z, and specifically Gen Z in the workplace. Now, I think this video is going to be very interesting because for people that are Gen Z watching this video, this is not going to be any new information. In fact, this may just sound like your average conversation that you've been having with your friends recently. But for millennials, Gen Xers, and boomers, this might be a little bit of a learning experience / something that may potentially piss you off. And for that, I want to say I am sorry. That is not the intent. I am trying to come at this as
He got some shit in his beard right here, by the way.
Neutral as I can.
Right, just
more doesn't want to work. Now, it's no secret that there have been a surge of memes, articles, and discussions online framing Gen Z as the generation that does not want to work, does not aspire for labor, and the generation that has collectively checked out of the traditional.
Yeah, my opinion on Gen Z not wanting to work is I think Gen Z is overly practical to a point where it's not that they don't want to do work. They don't want to do unnecessary work. I think that's the big difference is like they know when some shit is a waste of time and they just don't want to do it. Versus, back in the day, niggas just do whatever their boss told them to do. Gen Z tries to find the logic in it. So
workforce. Whether that's coming from us Gen Z ourselves, from different corporate content, making fun of and making light of a lot of the realities that a lot of us face in the workplace as Gen Z, or coming from other generations talking about how Gen Z is difficult to work with, or even going as far as saying that they do not want to hire Gen Zs in their workplace. Now, here's the thing, right? As most things do on the internet, a lot of this conversation is blown out of proportion, sensationalized, yet also taken at its very face value. And that's where we've kind of seen a lot of issues, right? Sure, there are a lot of videos online talking about how Gen Z does not want to go above and beyond for work, right? Look no further than the corporate baddie himself and love him down. Over the years, he's made videos advocating for Gen Z and talking about Gen Z in the workforce, oftentimes making comedic videos, encouraging Gen Z entering the workforce to assert their boundaries, try and take up space, as well as making light of some of the inconsistencies and some of the things that are just plain weird about. Maybe the biggest one is the stereotype that Gen Z is lazy. And I think this stereotype in particular is really funny because I think I understand where this stereotype has come from. And with that in mind, I think that this stereotype just stems from a long game of telephone, going completely wrong and mixing up the messaging of what Gen Z has been talking about. So people online and in offices and articles say like Gen Z is lazy. They don't want to work. They show up and do the bare minimum and don't want to really advocate for themselves and push for themselves and work hard in the traditional sense that everyone else that has come before them has done before, and that is what makes them lazy. I don't know necessarily if that is 100% the case. Again, it's similar to what happens when you play a game of telephone where
like I said previously, I don't agree with that sentiment. I think, let's say for example, you work a fast food job and you get paid minimum wage and you're Gen Z. You're going to do the basic shit. If you have customers, you take the customers. You do all the cashier shit. But why they get called lazy is like, okay, we're not going to want to have to do all the extra shit that's outside of our pay grade. Like, we're cleaning the whole place. We're making food. We're handing out food. We're taking orders. Gen Z is so practical where They're like, okay, I was hired to take orders, so that's all I'm gonna do. Some people will view it as lazy, but they're also like, I don't get paid extra to do all this other shit. I guarantee you, if you pay Gen Z extra to do the other shit you ask them to do, it will get done. But they not doing shit for free. That's the thing about Gen Z.
Tell someone something and they have to tell another person something, and eventually down the line the messaging is completely different from what the original person said. Because I think the predominant message that a lot of these articles and a lot of these think pieces have are completely different from what the original message from Gen Z was about work. From my knowledge, and I could be wrong, Gen Z said that we don't aspire to work, we don't live to work, and don't particularly look forward to or really want to be overworked and stressed out and undercompensated for the work that we've done, because we've seen how that played out. We've seen how that worked with millennials. We've seen how that worked out with our parents, the Gen Xers, where for generations it's been normalized to be exploited at work. Again, being overworked, undercompensated, undervalued, looked over for promotions, for opportunities, despite how much work you actually put into the job. The messaging was that we don't aspire for that. We generally don't have like a dream job per se, but we also understand that like money isn't just going to come out of nowhere and we need to work to live. We just don't live to work. And somehow that messaging got construed as like Gen Z doesn't want to work at all. We're lazy. We don't want to put in the work. And I think that those are two completely different concepts. And I want to say I fully understand that it takes effort to get anywhere in life, like, and that you don't really make progress. You don't really get anything that comes easy. You need to work, and that typically you need to work hard to get things and do things, and that no one is entitled to an easy job or an easy life or any of the things that are typically like promoted on social media. Like, that is not the norm. I get that. My thing is that with this lazy narrative that Gen Z has, and the whole like Gen Z doesn't want to work hard at all discourse, is that for a lot of older Gen Xers, some boomers, and even some millennials, there's like this rite of passage mindset where like, if I went through this and I experienced this, you have to do it too. And there's just generally no drive to improve the systems that you came up in for the next person, like leaving your environment, leaving the place better than what you found it.
That's another point that I agree with, is I feel like a lot of the older generations, and this is as somebody that works with a lot of Gen X and a lot of millennials and a few baby boomers, is they be so mad that there are ways that Gen Z can get access to something quicker. There are jobs that you can get now, fresh out of high school, that you couldn't get back then. It just depends on who you know, what you have access to, and what you know. And some of them motherfuckers hate that shit. It's like, imagine somebody is 20, 30 years older than you, and they're getting paid the exact same as you. You feel some type of way about that shit.
And to improve the whole system of working conditions and the corporate workplace, because it really doesn't need to be the same way. Like, just because there's a lot of aspects of work that are generally unpopular but accepted, like the industry-wide shift from remote work to in-person work again, for example. While I completely understand that remote work is not for everybody, acting as if no one is productive or productivity is collectively down across the board with remote work is just simply a fallacy. According to a Quantum Workplace study, just 16% of white-collar workers in their survey said they're more productive in office, compared to 46% who said they're more productive at home. With that same study going far as to say that hybrid employees have the highest level of engagement, with more than 4 in 5 reporting high engagement, compared to 78% of remote employees and 72% of on-site employees. And my general thoughts to like the whole return to office initiative, especially the ones that are really strict, that are like, you need to be back in office 5 days a week, like that's excessive. My thoughts is that there should not be a mandate for like back to office work unless it is absolutely necessary.
I think my opinion on hybrid work is, one, it depends on the job, but two, I think hybrid work is the best medium. Nobody wants to go in office at work 5 days a week, especially if you're there for long hours. But also at the same time, working from home 5 days a week is hard to manage. Because when you're home, you want to do home shit. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to say, okay, I'm going to sit down in my own house and I'm going to sit down for 8 hours and get some shit done. Within those 8 hours, you're going to do shit that you wouldn't normally do if you were at work. The perfect combination of that shit is hybrid. Hybrid work is the future.
Like, let people choose where they want to work or not. Like, let them choose if they want to be in person, remote, or hybrid. And of course, hold them to those standards if like they're slacking or if they're like not actually doing the work, but let people choose for themselves for their circumstances. Because for one, different people have different circumstances. Some people have kids, some people have long commute times, some people have disabilities, some people have other extenuating circumstances that may make it difficult for them or incredibly inconvenient for them to come into work every single day, which would then actually physically hinder their productivity. Like, it just doesn't seem like this widespread one-size-fits-all approach really works for anybody. It's kind of clear that the intention behind this isn't 100% productivity. A lot of it is because the execs behind these companies and the boards behind these companies want to make a return on their investment on all of these office spaces that they bought up prior to the pandemic that had been going empty for the years after lockdowns. So there definitely is a financial incentive for people to be back in offices. I don't think that it necessarily is as much in the employee's interest or to the employee's benefit as some of the messaging may suggest. But this isn't the case across all companies. Spotify actually has been a leader in the employee autonomy of where you want to work movement, I guess, because they've recently come forward to say that they are continuing their work from anywhere policy, going as far to say that they employ adults, not children. And honestly, I can respect that. Like, you have companies from across the workplace, across industries that initially pledged to always keep a work from anywhere approach or work from anywhere policy in their company, saying things that like, oh yeah, work from home will always be there. Like, we'll always give our employees a chance to choose whether they want to work in person or in office. And then suddenly over the past 2 years, it's been like, no, yeah, you need to be in office 2 days. Now it's 3 days. Now it's 4 days. Now it's 4.5 days. You get half day on Friday, and progressively going further and further. He's entitled. A lot of the discourse around Gen Z entitlement in the workplace revolves around Gen Z's expectation and entitlement to high salaries, flexible working conditions, high PTO, and our entitlement to mental health.
And I would agree with there's a level of entitlement with my generation, but it also comes with there's a level of like non-contentness, like non-complacency that exists in our generation, which is ironic because they try to call us lazy. We feel like, why the fuck would I do all this shit at my job and get paid minimum wage when I could do just as much physical labor and get paid more? It's just, we're very, very, very practical, and we know that like minimum wage ain't gonna cut it, bro. When you go to McDonald's and you go to get your meal, you see way less teens working there than they usually did, bro. Because they're trying to do some shit. They're trying to do some shit that will make them money, bro. Gen Z is about getting their money. Now, how they go about it, you could disagree with, but their general purpose is getting rich.
Having people care about our mental health. With less than half of Gen Z employees saying that their boss helps them maintain a healthy workload and 28% saying that they struggle with their mental health because of their boss, it's a common sentiment that Gen Z sort of does too much and feels entitled to have people respect whatever boundaries they put up at work, whether that be requesting to not be talked to about work during lunch breaks or just general breaks, to asking for days off for like different mental health reasons. There's this general sense of entitlement to people's time, to people's emotional capacity, to people's effort that people believe is inherent to Gen Z and is a bad trait. And to this, I quote a Forbes article because I think they say it best. Gen Z wants to work, but still have time and energy to enjoy their personal pursuits. Don't we all? And leaders must...
And that's the key to life, bro. Nobody wants to just work and then not have any time to enjoy their work and just go back to work and keep working, bro. Gen Z does not want that shit. Gen Z works for a purpose. They have goals in mind when they go to work. And that's why there's problems in the workplaces. Once they reach their goal, they don't give a fuck about the job anymore. It's like once they made enough to get their car, well then fuck this job. I'm gonna work a little bit less hard. That's where the problem lies.
Recognize that feeling constantly overwhelmed negatively impacts performance, giving your employees room to loyalty. This one is more easy to answer. When you're burnt out and overwhelmed. Another one is that Gen Z lacks loyalty. This one is more easy to answer. This stereotype is that Gen Z is likely to job hop, likely to not stay loyal to a company, not really trying to devote their all to a company, not trying to stay anywhere long term or really build anywhere with anyone, and just generally.
And this is another one I agree with. As a dude that borderline job hops, I think that loyalty to to these companies don't matter, because they can and they will fire you. And if you have an opportunity to make more in this economy, even if it's only by a few thousand more, that's a chance that you gotta take, bro. I don't mind the job hopping as long as it's not like, okay, I'm going from McDonald's to Burger King to Taco Bell. You just gotta be making progress. That's all.
Really lacks commitment to their employers. And to that I say, this is going to sound bratty. I just want to let that be known. But I dare to say that your employer lacks loyalty to you. And we'll touch on that in a second, but I want to bring this back to Gen Z specifically for right now. I think this narrative was really popularized by a lot of content creators, specifically tech content creators a couple of years ago, where all that you could see online was tech content. Like, I come to work, I don't do a lot of tasks, I kind of show up, I get to have my snacks, and then after 2 years, I'll dip and go somewhere else and get paid more. One, I don't think that's necessarily the case across the board. And two, I don't know for sure that we could say that that is strictly a Gen Z thing. Gen Z cannot co-opt job hopping. Like, we did not invent that. In fact, that has been a common practice for generations. And especially more recently when it comes to like job hopping for better opportunities, the bulk of Gen Z did not enter the workforce until maybe like 3, 4, maybe 5 years ago. And I've known people even when I was younger to job hop to get better opportunities. Sometimes we do too much. I will say that sometimes we do too much. And I can see that there are times where there can be moments where we are difficult to work with, but not in any way that's unique to any other generation. And I don't think that this is necessarily something revolutionary with Gen Z. This is something that's brought up for every new generation that enters the workforce. The millennials went through it. I'm sure some of the Gen Xers went through it. I wasn't around to see that. But this is a thing that happens to every single new generation that enters the workforce. There are always these allegations about being lazy, about not working hard, about not having the qualifications to do these jobs. But I think we're seeing it at such a larger scale now. Again, like most things, because of the age of the internet that we live in, where things are so much easier to, or where there's just so much more visibility, and you can take a headline and make it go 1,000 times more viral and more in people's faces than ever before. Like, sure, in times past, you might have had a employee that was lazy or didn't actually want to work. Especially when talking about a lot of these misconceptions about Gen Z, is that people fail to understand that like Gen Z has come up into the workforce under very different circumstances. Like, our work values are very different because the way that we enter the workforce and the way that we see in the world is inherently different from other generations. Like, I don't think that it's talked about enough that for a lot of older Gen Z, our entrance to the workforce was fundamentally different simply because a large portion of our generation that's working now did not know a world of work outside of remote work. Like, a great deal of us entered the professional workforce during the pandemic, which meant virtual interviews, which meant virtual work and distant connections from coworkers. Like, I've had 2 full-time jobs since graduating college in 2022, and I've still to this day never had an in-person interview, nor have I had to work in person before. Like, it's been something that I've chosen to do, but it's never something that's been like the norm. And this is the case for a lot of Gen Z that is working right now. Like, of course, now with like the increase of hybrid and return to work, there is more of that experience, but it's still not exactly one-to-one the same experience with the same dynamics that a lot of generations prior have had. And I think what's happening here is that we have a inherently different outlook on work because we are introduced to professional work in a different way. And the way that older generations are looking down at us, expecting certain things or expecting us to know certain things or to have these certain values in work that really did apply and really were capital in the old workplace, just don't hold up the same in this new age, in this new era of working. Whether we like to admit it or not, the world fundamentally changed and won't be going back to how things were prior to for as long. Oh, and if I may go on a mini rant really quick, this is not towards anyone specifically. I don't want anyone to feel called out by this. Can we talk about some of the hypocrisy in modern hiring right now? I think where a lot of young people get tripped up is that a lot of us, and this is a common thing for millennials too. Millennials, I know y'all understand this because this was a lot of what y'all went through. But for Gen Z, we went into the whole like go to school, go to college, get a job, get a family pipeline very skeptically. But a lot of us still believed. A lot of us were like, all right, we're still kind of skeptical over like whether this is gonna work out or not, or whether what we're being sold is the truth, because we saw that that wasn't the case for the millennials and they kind of had to really hustle and figure their out as they went, but we were hoping that things would be a little bit better. Now, tell me why many of us went to school, got these degrees, and were hoping to land a job after college, because that's the idea that's sold. Like, you go to college and you get a job. But with the current job market that we're at right now, a lot of these entry-level job positions are asking for levels of experience that would not physically be possible for someone that would normally have that job to have. Because what do you mean that an entry-level position, an early career position, is asking for 3 years of experience in whatever field you're in? How is that possible if you just
bad pause.
graduated learning about what you're supposed to learn about? And the thing that gets me,
that's also a terrible pause. But that was something I dealt with in the job field. Is I, as somebody that didn't go to college, is trying to build enough relative experience. That's why I might job hop a little bit, is working my way towards experience in the fields that I am more interested in. And that creates opportunities for me to get those jobs, bro. Because realistically, when you have a degree, it doesn't work out. But when you don't have a lot of experience, it doesn't work out. The only way that it works out is if you have a lot of experience, or you have a degree and a decent amount of experience. It's the only way.
is that the messaging is that, like, oh, you're supposed to apply to things even if you seem underqualified. And that's the truth. You should do that, because 9 times out of 10, regardless of if you have the experience or not, if you get hired, they're going to train you to know what to do on the job anyway. I don't understand that, because it's become like this barrier of entry where it feels like for a lot of people that are in between jobs, are applying to jobs, are recent grads and applying to jobs, or are trying to switch to a different job, that like no one's qualified for anything, when that's just not the truth. Like, sure, we don't have the years of experience because we're young, but we're not given really any roles to gain that experience. Because
I agree with a lot of these points in different ways and stuff, and we out here.